if the decision would be announced at the annual G20 Leaders Summit in New Delhi over the weekend, but two Indian sources hinted the membership for AU was expected to be formalized only next year when Brazil takes over the presidency of.
And on to our focus for tonight on the African scene in Nigeria. Just 2 days ago, there was a statistics on President Bola Tinubu's 100 days since he took up the reins, which shows he may have pulled millions of poor Nigerians below where his predecessor Muhammad Buhari left them on May 29th on the poverty line. Tinubu claims the economic reforms of the last 3 months, including fuel subsidy removal and foreign exchange FX liberalization, would rescue the country from the control of the quote tiny elite and improve the lives of over 200 million citizens. But the reality is sad, not near the promise. Perhaps too easy to tell how much of the promise he will eventually bring to reality.
The impoverishment put on the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is only 100 days on the presidency seat has had a lot of them look forward to the outcome of the long awaited verdict from the Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal that came yesterday. The tribunal delivered a 12-hour marathon judgment yesterday, Wednesday, throwing out the petitions of the Allied People's Movement, the PDP and its flag bearer Atiku Abubakar, as well as that of the Labour Party and its presidential candidate Peter Obi.
Well, the five-man panel led by Justice Haruna Samani not only discussed the consolidated petitions of the PDP, the APM, and the LP, but it also clearly confirmed the victory of Tinubu, a former governor of Lagos State. Justice Samani said that this petition accordingly lacks merit, in quote. He says, I affirm the return of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the duly elected president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The parties are to bear their cost, he says.
In a statement rejecting the judgment, the National Publicity Secretary of PDP, Debo Ologumba, described the verdict as generous in technicalities and very short in delivering substantial justice in the matter. The opposition party argued that the judgment is against reason, against the facts, and evidence presented in court, against the relevant electoral laws, guidelines, and regulations, as well as constitutions of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended in 1999.
While hundreds of Nigerians on Wednesday staged an advocacy walk around the immediate perimeters of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, declaring their acceptance of the judgment of the Presidential Elections Petitions Court (PEPC), which affirmed the victory of Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the February 25th presidential election.
While a senior advocate of Nigeria, Ebonlu Aderuwa, claims that the Independent National Electoral Commission fought opponents of President Bola Tinubu at the Presidential Election Tribunal and cannot organize credible polls. Adeboruwa said the tribunal's verdict was not totally unexpected given the stake or given the stark realities facing us as a nation and the state of the law.
Well, he added that the principles of presumption of regularities of elections and that of substantial conformity makes it extremely difficult to prosecute elections successfully. What is the nation doing about the verdict? It's as though while other African countries are taking back their nation and not leaving it to a few cabals in ties with their colonizers, Nigerians can only express themselves by tweets and memes and only on social media.
All right, and of course, this has been a dead time for Africans because I don't know, Africans were expecting a lot of change from the news coming in from Nigeria. But to do justice to this, we have Barrister Tim here, who is an authority when it comes to legal issues. And of course, Mr. Tapadi King is at the other end to do justice to these and many other stories that we have looked at tonight. Mr. Ta.
Yes, thanks again, Onye. We've had an enriching news, and I think we will be concluding the news with this analysis. There's so much I know you want to talk about, Barrister Mbesa, from the deal in Bangui, the colonial administrator trying to clear the farms or whatever as a show of whatever for his master into the carnage that's happening with our people. And now we are in West Africa. I'd rather that we just focused on these two aspects, the deal and West Africa, as we conclude the news this evening. You've seen that shame. All is just to impose and try to see if they can get our students back into school. Where's the tip?
Uh, I think let us take the back to school issue. I will take the dual clearing grass as just one symbolic example. What does that show us? What the duo is doing shows that overall the administrator, not even their bosses who have sent them to those places, they don't know or they are refusing to understand what this problem is about. If the children are not in school there, it is not because trees are growing in the school compound. No, that's not why they're absent. By extension, you go to Mount Fair, you find a mayor, a deal, go around classroom and promising pens and pencils. If the children are not in school in Manfe, in Boya, in Kumba, in Bamenda, it is not because they lack pens and pencils. That's not what they lack. That's not why they are absent from school. They are trying to escape from the problem. The problem is not the grass growing there. The problem is not that we don't have books. The problem is not that we don't have classrooms. No, they are missing the point. The problem is more fundamental. Until they address it, you can go and clear all the whole forest. The school should not resume. And again, you find them, the dew is clearing at his background, at his backyard, or at the background, you will find some policemen there, some big people with guns. Why are they standing with guns? Why do children need guns to go to school? I saw it, is it Monday in Boya, Tuesday in Boya, at the lycée, big town, lycée Belen. The administrators were there with the police and the gendarmes. People where the security is here, come to school. The children did not tell that they are not coming to school because someone was trying to shoot them. No, that's not the issue. So stop pretending, poor Dio. You are cutting that grass there. How many of those trees will you cut? And why did they even grow there in the first place? Those trees should have been there for 3, 4, 5 years without school there. Why? Why? Why don't you address the issue? Tell your bosses that no, that's not the issue. That grass will go away by itself, will be cleared within seconds if the basic problem were solved. So that's what it is. That's what it's all about school resumption. Forget about the deal. You're just one of the server in every place, in Bengui, in Kambe, in Boya, in Tombe. Their brothers are doing the same thing and nothing is changing. So your bosses know it. You don't need to make a report for them to know that things are not moving. You don't need to
No.
clear grass. I'm sorry you're doing that, but all what you need to do is you're trying to keep a job for some duty allowance. You're not trying to make school resume.
By that tip, that is just an impostor, but it shows how they have been reduced by Yaoundé and they will be so desperate to achieve whatever they want to achieve. Now let's get into West Africa. You had a movement of the obedience, and they were all. By the way, uh, medically, you would have Ali Bongo being released from custody, and we have a new man in power. That's on our side. We may comment on that. I think we'll have enough time on Saturday to discuss that as we prepare to draft more county. But this is what I really want us to talk about more. It's about the elections of Obi that he claimed to have won, and right now the court is saying that all of his petitions are baseless. You have the Nigerian youths are frustrated. He was for a long time able to mobilize the youths, and it is a very critical thing. The first 100 days of Tinubu in office has caused a lot of hardship for the people of Nigeria. Nigerians are suffering big time. He promised that if the courts will make any error, there will be anarchy. Perhaps for that had influence or has influenced the results we're seeing today. This area or country in the Gulf of Guinea is very particular and very closely related to Southern Cameroon. Whatever is happening in Asoro could affect the Gulf of Guinea so badly. That is what is happening. Tinubu has been imposed as president for the people of Nigeria. What do you think the future in the days ahead will be saying for this country? You are a
Well,
political analyst.
what I would say is, as Ambazonians, what goes on in Nigeria affects us because we share a common sea boundary with them. We should never venture into analyzing the victory or the defeat of somebody in Nigeria. That's not our problem. What we know is that at every given moment, we have a leader in Nigeria, a federal president, that will have to deal with Ambazonia. Even if this president is empowered by military coup, we still have the power politically, economically, and otherwise to deal with Ambazonia as your neighbor. I'm one of those who I never even ever believed in those petitions. Because I don't think legally Obi could ever have become the president. No court would have ever ruled in favor of him because he was not even a runner-up. He was a third. If they were to cancel the election, the man who was number two would have won, not Obi who was number three. So that is all political gymnastics for Nigeria. But whatever is the case, that's not our problem. If Obi won the election, fine. We have to deal with him as the president of Nigeria. If Tinubu won, if anybody won and is declared the president of Nigeria, we have to deal with that person. That's where our problem is. Our problem is not the personality. Our problem is the president of Nigeria. When Mr. Obasanjo was there, Obasanjo was the president of Nigeria in 2002. He was the federal president. His government undertook of officially before a court in Nigeria, Abuja High Court, to present ambassador case to the international community, to the African Union, to the United Nations. He never did till today. After Obasanjo, we have had several other presidents in Nigeria. They have not handled it. So let us deal with what concerns us. Mr. Tinubu will know that he has to deal with us. He knows that we are the ones bordering them in the Bakassi Peninsula. And so, as the war spills over, as the war goes on, those are the bitter pills he has to swallow. Like where he likes us or not, he has to deal with Ambazonia. His predecessor deported our brothers and sisters from Abuja to prison in Yaoundé. That was the federal president of Nigeria. We don't care his name, but he was representing the federal government of Nigeria. So, Mr. Tinubu, you're welcome. Congratulations for your victory. Verily, tie your shoe, confront the issues that your predecessors knew. You understood. Obasanjo, not even Obasanjo. Ambazonia was ruled as part of Nigeria for many years, from 1954, from 1946 to 1961. And so, those facts are so well known. You cannot circumvent them. You cannot escape them. There was no way. Nigeria was never, it never had any boundaries with Cameroon. That republic, we never had any boundaries with them. So those are the bitter facts that you have to swallow. Amazonia war is ongoing. And so you do yourself a better service by doing what is supposed to be done. Amazonian issue is an international issue. It's an African Union issue. It is a United Nations issue. So, Mr. Tinubu, take your shoe, carry yourself.
But Tim, I like the way you talk some things sometimes. But you see, other factions, the Labour Party, the Independents, the activists, they are concerned about INEC elections irregularities, and they are saying, and this is of great concern. It concerns us very directly. They are saying that the fraud of INEC and the hegemony that the PDP party is trying to create within Nigeria can be termed or assigned as constitutional coup d'etat. And nobody like you, political analysis today, not even the UN is talking about it. But when people take responsibility to militarily take over, you have the West and others criticizing. We heard that from Gema in Gabon. Do you think that the irregular procedure that INEC used with the pretext of power cutoff shouldn't have been sufficient enough for this election to have been cancelled and redone?
Let me say this. I know some people will disagree with me. I talk from the position of Amazonia as a country different from Nigeria, as a country different from another country. In international relations, you take the leaders of different countries as you find them. You don't decide for them. Otherwise, you can challenge the Nigerian press and all Nigerian politicians have the right to challenge. They have the right to argue. They have the right to express those opinions. That is the right. But you and me, Ambazonians, just like Ivorians, just like the French, just like the British, there is nothing you can do about that. In international relations, you accept your neighbor as you see him or her. Some of them are military leaders. They do coups. The only question asked in international relations is who is in control. That's why they make coups, overthrow elected governments. And the next day, they say the ambassadors are United Nations. The next day, they say the ambassadors are the African Union and other international organizations. The world is aware those things that the coup got there by coup. If we were to litigate Tinubu, who is being litigated every in court, we're going to litigate Bongo. We're going to litigate Niger. Why not Chad? Why not even Yaoundé? That is not our problem. Because even today at the United Nations, if a vote came in and there was a vote, whether the Nigerian government is represented by a dog who won the Nigerian vote, whether the British government is represented by a cat who won the British vote,
I
whether the
understand
American government is represented by
you're
one
talking
who won
on
their
behalf
vote.
of Amazonia, but what I don't seem to understand is the fact that you think that irregularities in other African nations uh, should not be a concern of another. That's an aspect which I think will enhance that debate subsequently.
No, I didn't say
It's
sure because it's a concern. But there's little that you, an
and
independent
I can do
country,
about it.
there's little that you can do to influence it. That's why you find today that we're even talking today. You find France quarreling with Niger, trying to say that their leader is illegitimate. And the
Mhm.
Nigerians, people from Nigeria say, look, please take away your ambassador. Yeah, we made the coup, but you have to go away. There's nothing France can do. The Americans of all,
No.
they're there. So
Mhm.
they concern us, but there's very little influence we can do over it. But again, as far as
There's
Ambazonia is concerned,
nothing we can do about it.
as far as Ambazonia is
The best
concerned,
way is to talk
at the
about it.
United Nations, at the African Union, the vote is counter as per the country. Yes,
Yeah.
Tinubu might have been so tempted, but between Tinubu, what took place in Nigeria, and what has been taking place in Yaoundé for the past 40 years, which is better, which is even better. In terms of comparison, the Nigerian election is better than what is going on in Nigeria, in Yaoundé for the past 43 years. So how can
Yeah.
we legitimize those guys and legitimize Paul Biya, who for all intents and purposes is a fraud, is a trickster? How can you say he's not competent and then you legitimize Bongo?
Yeah.
Sisi Ngupu, in case of whatever you call it. Or even Ouattara. So that's how international relations are built.
The
You
truth
think the
about it is
Americans
that
did not know? The Americans
we
didn't know
will
that
get,
Niger had. The
we will
Americans
get
sought the
into
permission of the government of Nigeria to bring their troops there. You know, it was a coup
yeah.
d'etat.
Pastor Mbesa, we will no doubt bring you on Saturday during the pre-draft show of the Momo County to talk
Yeah.
a little bit more on this
Thank you for
aspect.
having me.
Yes, we're gonna make sure that we have the Momo County pre-draft show. There's a lot for us to talk about. We need to catch up.
Oh,
We'll have Barrister Fru, and we'll scope through what is happening in West Africa, in Gabon, updates, and why the draft is imperative as always. But I'd like to hand over the mic back to Undaunted for them to close. Maybe you want to say something very briefly, please.
well, thank you for having me. Hope we meet on Saturday.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, sir. Thanks.
Yeah, over to you, Undaunted.
All right, so it's been a trying time here in Africa. I mean, some of the countries are already getting ahead and some are still struggling. But nevertheless, we'll get you updated with information as it unfolds with whatever comes new in any part of the world. Now, remember that Saturday we draft for Momo County. Hope you are ready. Hope you are ready for the draft on Saturday. It's on this note that will draw the curtains on Undaunted tonight, but we'll leave you with the Momo jingle.
The World Draft Once More is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
Let our fallen heroes and heroines guide and shield our men and women. Let their ultimate sacrifice be the reason we change the game and give our enemies what they have been giving us. Ambazonia needs to protect its people from the terrorist troops of the Republic of Cameroon. The time is now to do just that.
You're enough. So let's draft, draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depends on
I'm from Momo County.
Sup. Aja. Whoa. Mama, you know you're crazy. Mubuta wane you're crazy. And then I tell me you would not be up with a mocha for me, poor mama. One be young, you one be Macamo. One be Macamo. Joshua Kanakwe, and we'll be Tiniza. Is not Tiniza Moshi. I am good.